You are now listening to Clay Mohr, the American storyteller.
We are here this morning with author, writer, and now YouTube storyteller Clay Mohr. We're just going to jump right in with the first question we all want to know. Who exactly is Clay Mohr?
Thanks for the great intro, Julie. Just happy to be here. Clay Mohr is many things. Some are based on perception and some on fact. For myself, Clay Mohr is the caretaker of a lost way of life. He is a traditionalist and a preservationist, all rolled into one. Someone who puts great value in the past for its guidance and wisdom, keeping us from making the same mistakes twice. Unfortunately, that's not often the case.
A caretaker of a lost way of life sounds like a heavy but rewarding role. And speaking of perceptions, what would be the perception that you would like to see your readers view you as?
Well, perhaps a lifesaver in the sea we call hypocrisy. A bright beacon of light that shines on the darkest of nights. Pretty philosophical here. I even surprise myself sometimes. Or in plain English, maybe just that person or friend that you know you can always count on to be there.
A lifesaver and a dependable friend, quite the admirable duo. Let's dive into your character and YouTube channel. What first gave you the idea for this character and your YouTube channel?
I was always fascinated by storytelling. Our Native Americans preserved their heritage for many years before the use of printed materials through storytelling. I am sure there are many cultures and nations throughout history that have accomplished the same thing. You know, everything has a story, Julie. It could be your family, maybe that used car that is in your driveway, even that big old oak tree in your neighbor's backyard has a story to tell. In those cases, the only thing that is missing is the person or persons to tell it. In this case, Clay Mohr.
That's a wonderful perspective. Everything indeed has a story if we take the time to listen. So, why Clay Mohr?
I always enjoyed writing in the third person or in character. I wanted to create someone that can tell these stories with accuracy when needed and without prejudice. Someone you can believe in. You know, if you believe in someone, the trust, the respect, and everything else just comes naturally. I guess I wanted a character that could just tell it like it is. And if it's the truth, so be it. And if it's the truth, there is rarely room for debate or discord. Like I always say, don't take my word for it, go ask Clay.
That makes a lot of sense. It's about trust and authenticity. Now, is there any particular reason you decided to start your program at this point in time?
Absolutely, Julie. You know, the world we live in presently, I feel, it's being consumed or overrun by the three C's, I like to call it. Chaos, complexity, and carelessness. Say that 10 times in a row. They all rear their ugly head at times, and unfortunately, sometimes all together. I guess you could say it's pretty much a recipe for disaster. I was never much for sitting around complaining and talking about the what ifs and the could be's. Over the years, I have found that one of the greatest remedies for certain situations like these is peace. Kind of clears your head. It is the peace I feel that comes from knowing you are trying to make the world a better place by your actions and your community. I hope to start a community here and provide people with a place they can come and find some of that peace together with me, whether it is in my stories or perhaps the escape and solitude one experiences while being here.
Chaos, complexity, and carelessness, that's well put, and I can say I do see a lot of that myself. This is a great way to put it. Do you mind if I asked about how your stories kind of originate?
Sure. Well, let me break this down into two parts. Firstly, some are real life experiences that are factual, and I have documented them in these writings. While some have a little more fiction or spin on them, what we used to say. I guess I really never know until I start writing them. Obviously, I change the names and geographical information, to protect people's privacy, if the case need be. I hope to do stories in the future that might talk about historical events or people, perhaps giving the readers some perspective or facts that they might not have known or thought about before. Secondly, I try to make them as believable as possible. At the same time, while being enjoyable. Most reflect everyday people dealing with everything that life has to throw at them. I try to make the characters interesting, but yet at the same time relatable to the reader. As someone you might know in your own life that you can relate to, but with perhaps a different name or venue.
Interesting. A mix of fact and fiction with a relatable twist. You mentioned to me earlier that you had goals or certain things you wanted to achieve in these writings. Can you share more about that?
I do, Julie. I want the 25 minutes or so that you spend here to be worth your time. Whether it be with your cup of coffee in the morning or your glass of wine or so in the evening after the world has beat you up pretty good. Perhaps these stories will enable you to conjure up some old memories of your own that can be enjoyed once again. Or perhaps some of my content will interest you enough to do some further research on the subjects, presented here. Julie, one of the principles that our country was founded on was the concept of free thinkers. And maybe we can return to that mindset here from time to time. One of my greatest successes, I feel, would be the anticipation that people would experience while waiting for the next Clay Mohr story, or adventure, as I call it from time to time.
Inspiring. What does the future hold for Clay Mohr?
Well, a lot of good stuff, I hope. Nah, let me rephrase that. A lot of great things. Over time, we're going to be constructing a website with all kinds of content. And some things might include ongoing information on a variety of subjects. I hope to have written copies of all my stories available also. Well, Julie, the young man that does all my tech work, says, "Sky's the limit, Clay." Well, let me tell you, for everyone that follows me, I want those skies to be bright blue and sunny.
Lastly, can you comment about your ending lines and sign off at the end of each story?
I would love to. I appreciate you asking me this question, Julie. Firstly, when I say that is another story for another time, it obviously keeps the door open for me to bring these characters back at a later date. And as time goes on and circumstances permit, I plan to do just that. I was told at an early age to always keep the door open, no matter how painful. You just never know what is waiting around the corner. The other part, bring the past to the present. Let me comment on this briefly, as you'll see this pop up on our website in its entirety someday. I can tell you this. Years ago, I had the opportunity to spend some time with an old timer that I grew to respect a great deal over the years. Little did I know at that time he would be one of the greatest mentors, and I have been blessed with some pretty good ones, that I ever had. He used to always tell me two things. Clay, how do you know where you're going if you don't know where you've been? And lastly, there's an old saying: if you work hard and live your life the right way the first time, someday you can sit back and enjoy it a second time around. And that's exactly what I'm doing. But that's another story for another time. I am Clay Mohr.
Well, there you have it, folks. Words of wisdom and a touch of mystery from the one and only Clay Mohr. Remember, the next time you find yourself lost in the chaos, complexity, and carelessness of life, think of Clay and his stories that remind us all of the past, the present, and the endless possibilities of tomorrow. Stay curious and keep those stories alive, as Clay would say. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Julie Marinara, and until next time, good night.